Good afternoon, esteemed colleague. Today's briefing will be delivered by Colonel Motuzyanyk, spokesperson of Presidential Administration of Ukraine, on ATO topics. Colonel, you have the floor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the last 24 hours, we have observed more cases of peace and quiet order violation by militants. The enemy is using weaponry banned by Minsk agreements. The militants shelled our locations 12 times from 120mm mortars and 5 times from 122 and 152 artillery. Twice the illegal armed groups used the multiple launchers Grad in the vicinities of Granitne in Donetsk region. The Ukrainian servicemen retaliate the provocations and inflict losses to the enemies. The most tense situation is still in the region of Donetsk airport. The militants are shelling ATO locations near Avdiivka, Pisky, Opitno, and Putilivska mine. Also near Gorlivka, the ceasefire is constantly violated near Mayorsk and Leninsk villages. The militants are mostly using mortars, grenade launchers, and small arms. In Mariupol vicinity, near Shirokin village, the situation is the most tense, and the militants were shelling our locations in the second half of the day, in the afternoon and the night. In Lugansk region, the militants do not show any great high activity. Some incidents have been observed near Shastya and Stanitsa Luganska. The illegal armed groups are constantly making a reconnaissance. Our border guards have spotted 6 drones. In the last 24 hours, 1 Ukrainian soldier has been killed in action and 7 got wounded. In a populated area adjacent to the ATO region, the situation is still very difficult due to the subversive and reconnaissance groups of the enemy. Some infrastructure utility sites are ruined or brought down. The Ukrainian miners and repair groups are doing their jobs constantly. In Volnovakha, the Secret Service of Ukraine detained the Ukrainian citizens who gathered and transferred to the militants information about the locations of Ukrainian troops. The illegal armed groups use this information to shell our locations and civilians. The Ukrainian law enforcement prevent spreading arms in Ukraine. In Zaporizhia, the SSU and local law enforcers has found a weapon trade criminal structure. The traders tried to sell weapons, ammunition, and explosives pulled out from ATO area. The law enforcement have detained 2 Zaporizhia inhabitants trying to sell 5 grenade launchers, 20 F1 grenades, and over 800 rounds for the submachine guns. And they also seized the machine gun, 6 AK-47 submachine guns, 2 hunting rifles, and over 1,000 rounds. The Ukrainian servicemen support residents in Donetsk and Lugansk region. The groups of military and civilian servicemen delivered humanitarian aid to Artomivsk, Dzerzhinsky, and other districts close to the delimitation lines. Our officers carried out opinion poll to improve the cooperation with locals. The Ukrainian army improves the mission readiness at the training ground near Mykolaiv. The Ukrainian commanders have carried out a tactical exercise. They performed some missions as training of the enemy, site destroying, completion, and mission under support of artillery and aircrafts. They also carried out the operation simulating seizing the breach and destroying the militants' locations. The training have been observed by the President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, and other key public servants of Ukraine. The rotation is going on. The law enforcers from Volyn region are going to the east of Ukraine, and for many of them, it's not the first time. The law enforcers will support peace and order, draw duties at the roadblocks, and check the vehicles for munition and explosives. And also, law enforcement Poltava and Kremenchuk units are going to ATO, seen off by the colleagues, friends, and volunteers. And according to tradition, the local pupils presented our soldiers with talismans. And now one more story about the true Ukrainian patriot defending his motherland. The Lieutenant Colonel Maxim Mirgorodsky from the 79th Independent Airborne Brigade is exemplary as an officer, always ready to carry out the most dangerous missions. Lieutenant Colonel Mirgorodsky is participating in ATO since last May, and he was one of the defenders of Donetsk airport who faced many challenges. Due to his professional commands, the soldiers seized strategically important locations and inflicted losses to the enemy, and Maxim Mirgorodsky also made his contribution to troops' withdrawal from Debaltsevo with the minimum losses. President of Ukraine, Poroshenko, awarded the Lieutenant Colonel by the first-class Bogdan Khmelnytsky Order, making his the first participant of ATO, being the full cavalier of Bogdan Khmelnytsky Order. It's the complete information, and if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. No questions, thank you, and the next briefing will be carried out here at 12:30 by the spokesperson of the Ministry of the Defense of Ukraine.